Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Jaya Radha Radhanat Radha Radhanat Radhe. Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari Nitai Gaura Hari Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki jai, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So welcome to today's morning program, and we're reading from the Krishna book, chapter 62, the meeting of Usha and Aniruddha. And before we do that, we'll just chant some invocation prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So chapter 62, the meeting of Usha and Aniruddha. The meeting of Aniruddha and Usha, which caused a great fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, is very mysterious and interesting. Maharaj Parikshit was eager to hear the whole story from Sukadev Goswami, and thus Sukadev narrated it. My dear king, you must have heard the name of King Bali. He was a great devotee who gave away in charity all that he had, namely the whole world, to Lord Vamana, the incarnation of Vishnu as a dwarf Brahman. King Bali had 100 sons, and the eldest of them was Banasura. This great hero, Banasura, born of Maharaj Bali, was a great devotee of Lord Shiva and always ready to render service unto him. Because of his devotion, Banasura achieved a great position in society and was honored in every respect. Actually, he was very intelligent and liberal also, and his activities are all praiseworthy because he never deviated from his promise and word of honor. He was very truthful and fixed in his vow. In those days, he was ruling over the city of Sonitpur. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Banasur had 1,000 arms, and he became so powerful that even the demigods like King Indra were serving him most obediently. So, this chapter and the next is actually the deliverance of Banasur. So we'll just trace a little of his history. From the creation, we have Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and from his navel, a lotus flower emerges, and Brahma is on that lotus flower. So when Brahma begins creation, first he creates his mental sons, and Marichi appears. And Marichi then creates Kashyapa Muni. And Kashyapa Muni, together with Diti, they give rise to Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu's son is the celebrated devotee Prahlad. Right? And Prahlad's son was Virochan. Right? And Virochan's son is Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj, he had 100 sons. And the eldest of that was King Banasur. Was Banasur. So this Banasur was a very powerful demon, and he was also very proud and arrogant. And once he went to Kailash to see Lord Shiva. And because he was so proud, he didn't follow any rules and regulations. No, he just, wanted to see Lord Shiva and just managed, or tried to attempt to enter Kailash. And Kailash is protected by Lord Shiva's soldiers. They are called the Ganas. And these Ganas now, they weren't very happy that this demon was just entering, without any prior invitation or anything. So one of them just picked him up and threw him out of Kailash. Right? And when he understood that Lord Shiva's servants are so powerful, then imagine how powerful Lord Shiva must be. So that's how he started worshipping Lord Shiva. And through that worship, he achieved 1,000 arms. And later on, actually, let's continue reading and we'll see later on what happens. Right? Long ago, when Lord Shiva was dancing in his celebrated fashion called the Tandava Nritya, from which he is known as Nataraj, Banasur helped Lord Shiva in his dancing by rhythmically beating drums with his 1,000 hands. Lord Shiva is well known as Ashutosh, very easily pleased, and he is also very affectionate to his devotees. He is a great protector for persons who take shelter of him, and he is a master of all living entities in this material world. Being pleased with Banasur, he said, "Whatever you desire, you can have from me, for I am very much pleased with you." And Banasur replied that, "My dear Lord, if you please, you can remain in my city just to protect me from the hands of my enemies." So Lord Shiva had remained in his city of Sanatpur. So once upon a time, Banasur came to offer his respects to Lord Shiva. And by touching the lotus feet of Lord Shiva with his helmet, which was shining like the sun globe, he offered his obeisances unto him. While offering his respectful obeisances, Banasur said, "My dear Lord, anyone who has not fulfilled his ambition will be able to do so by taking shelter of your lotus feet, which are just like a desire tree from which one can take anything he desires. My dear Lord, you have given me 1,000 arms, but I do not know what to do with them. They are simply a burden. I cannot use them properly in fighting, since I cannot find anyone competent to fight with me except your lordship, the original father of the material world. Sometimes I feel a great tendency to fight with my arms, and I go out to fight a suitable warrior. Unfortunately, everyone flees, knowing my extraordinary power. Being baffled at not finding a match, I satisfy the itching of my arms by beating them against the mountains. In this way, I tear many great mountains to pieces. So we see here how Banasur, he has become powerful, yet also arrogant. Because now he's challenging even Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva realized that his benediction had become troublesome for Banasur, and he addressed him, "You rascal, you are very eager to fight, but since you have no one to fight with, you are distressed. Although you think there is no one in this world to oppose you except me, I say you will eventually find such a competent person. At that time, your days will come to an end, and your flag of victory will no longer fly. Then you will see your false prestige smashed to pieces." Now, when we read these pastimes from the scriptures, on one layer, on one level, there is the storyline. But deeper than that is the message behind the storyline. And that's what we need to look out for and imbibe. Like we say, if you want the jewels and the gems in the ocean, you have to dive deep into the ocean. So in the same way, in our scriptures, there are gems and there are lots of jewels, nectars of instruction. And we need to dive deep if we want to achieve or find those gems. So here, what do we learn from this attitude of Banasur? That when one has a weapon, it yields a certain amount of power. Like, let's say somebody has well, it's very notorious in South Africa, but let's say somebody carries a gun. He yields a certain amount of power knowing that he has that gun. Right? This attitude that comes from that having these physical opulences brings about a certain power in an individual, right? But we have to understand that that power given to us doesn't really belong to us. It's given to us by the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. And in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "I am the ability in man." So any power that he has given us is actually coming from the Lord, and we should use it in the Lord's service, right? So now if we look at our consciousness, the soul within the body. Now, this soul determines, the body that you're in determines the kind of power that you avail. Like, let's say the soul in the body of a tiger. It has a different kind of consciousness and a different type of power. The soul in the body of a rat, a different type of consciousness, a different type of power. Right? So in this way, Banasur's arms, his 1,000 arms, he had a type of power that he revealed. And this power made him arrogant and proud. If we look also like a rich man's son, he has a certain type of power in the money that he yields. He can buy anything that he wants. So this is how arrogant he becomes, right? Any person that has some kind of high position, they also depict certain type of arrogance, right? But all of this, where does it come from? This ability in all of us comes from the Supreme Lord. But a devotee is different. A devotee understands that this power comes from the Supreme Lord, and he will use it in the service of the Lord. Now, we look at creation. When Lord Brahma was praying to the Supreme Lord, like we mentioned earlier on, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and from his navel appears this lotus flower, and Lord Brahma appeared on that lotus flower. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Lord Brahma was praying to Lord Krishna, and in his prayer he says that I will be creating this entire universe, but I pray that I do not become proud of my activities. So this is the position of a devotee, that he prays not to be proud of his abilities, and we should all safeguard ourselves from that. Somebody has the ability to sing very nicely. Somebody has the ability to speak, give a nice class. Somebody has the ability to dance or to preach very nicely. All these abilities are coming from the Supreme Lord, and we should use it in the service of the Lord. We shouldn't become proud of these abilities. So this is one of the lessons that we can learn from the attitude of Banasur. Right. Now here, Lord Shiva has said to him that you will eventually meet the person who will destroy you. Now Lord Shiva himself, he could destroy Banasur very easily. But he didn't do that. In fact, he was waiting to glorify Lord Krishna through this pastime. So, he was actually looking forward or waiting for Lord Krishna to destroy Banasur's pride and arrogance. So continuing, after hearing Lord Shiva's statement, Banasur, who was very much puffed up with his power, became elated that he would meet someone to smash him to pieces. Banasur then returned home with great pleasure, and he always waited for the day when that suitable fighter would come to cut down his strength. He was such a foolish demon. It appears that foolish demoniac human beings, when unnecessarily over-empowered with material opulences, want to exhibit these opulences, and such foolish people feel satisfaction when these opulences are exhausted. So another point that we can learn from this is that he was so foolish. So power also brings foolishness, where Lord Shiva had said that the person that will eventually defeat you. But this Banasur, instead of being fearful, he foolishly awaited that day. Right? So, continuing, the idea is that they do not know how to expand their energy for right causes, being unaware of the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Actually, there are two classes of men. One is Krishna conscious, and the other non-Krishna consciousness. The non-Krishna conscious men are generally devoted to the demigods, whereas Krishna conscious men are devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna conscious people utilize everything in the service of the Lord. The non-Krishna conscious persons utilize everything for sense gratification. And Banasur is a perfect example of such a person. For his own satisfaction, he was very eager to utilize his extraordinary power to fight. Not finding any combatant, he struck the powerful arms against the mountains, breaking them to pieces. In contrast to this, Arjuna also possessed extraordinary powers for fighting, but he utilized them only for Krishna. So we see that Banasur, he used his power for sense gratification to satisfy his own desires. But a devotee, Arjuna, he used his powers for the satisfaction of the Lord. Right? So, from this, what do we learn? Right? Power brings with it an effect to consciousness, like we spoke about how a rich man's son, because of all his opulence, he will have a certain amount of arrogance to him. But it's a great expertise when devotees use everything upon them, everything that they have in the service of Krishna, and they do not become proud. So the Lord is very merciful. That later on in the next chapter you'll see how Krishna, he cut down the arms of Banasur and he becomes pacified. Eventually he becomes very sobered down and a wonderful devotee. So pride brings with it illusion. Right? We think we are the masters. We are the Lord. Right? And Banasur, he was intoxicated with his strength. Right? So even though Banasur was so powerful, he was completely dissatisfied. So you can have all the power, but if it's not used in the service of the Supreme Lord, then one is not satisfied, right? Sense gratification, which is what Banasur used his power for, it does not bring us satisfaction, right? Now, similarly, we see in Canto 7, Hiranyakashipu, he was so powerful, all the demigods were bowing down to him. He controlled the entire universe, but he was still very dissatisfied. So power does not necessarily bring satisfaction unless it is used in the service of the Lord. So continuing from there, Banasur had a very beautiful daughter whose name was Usha. When she attained the age of marriage and was sleeping, amongst her many girlfriends, she dreamt one night that Aniruddha was by her side and she was enjoying conjugal relationship with him. Although she had never actually seen him or heard of him before, she awoke from her dream exclaiming very loudly, "My dear beloved, where are you?" Being exposed to her friends in this way, she became a little ashamed. One of Usha's girlfriends was Chitralekha, who was the daughter of Banasur's prime minister. Banasur and Usha were intimate friends, and out of great curiosity, Chitralekha asked, "My dear beautiful princess, As of yet, you are not married to any young boy, nor have you seen any boys until now. So I am surprised that you are exclaiming this. Who are you searching after? Who is your suitable match? Right. On hearing Chitralekha, Usha replied, "My dear friend, in my dream, I saw a young man who was very, very beautiful. His complexion is swarthy, his eyes are like lotus petals, and he is dressed in yellow garments. His arms are very long, and his general bodily features are so pleasing that any young girl would be attracted. I feel much pride in saying that this beautiful young man was kissing me, and I was very much enjoying the nectar of his kissing. But I am sorry to inform you that just after this he disappeared, and I have been thrown into a whirlpool of disappointment. My dear friend, I am very anxious to find this wonderful young man, the desired Lord of my heart." After hearing Usha's words, Chitralekha immediately replied, "I can understand your bereavement, and I assure you that if this boy is within these three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planets, I must find him for your satisfaction." So, what Chitralekha did was she started drawing the different personalities within the three worlds, the upper planet, the middle planets, and the lower planetary system. And she drew pictures of Gandharvas, Siddhas, Chanaras, Daityas, Vidyadharas, and Yakshas, as well as many pictures of human beings. Right? And she drew, she drew many pictures. Among the human beings, she drew were members of the Vrishni dynasty, including Vasudev, the father of Krishna, Surasena, the grandfather of Krishna, Sri Balramji, Lord Krishna, and many others. And when Usha saw the picture of Pradyumna, she became a little bashful. But when she saw the picture of Aniruddha, she became so bashful that she immediately lowered her head and smiled, having found the man she was seeking. She identified the picture to Chitralekha as that was the man who had stolen her heart. So Chitralekha was a great mystic yogini, and as soon as Usha identified this picture, Chitralekha immediately understood that it was Aniruddha, the grandson of Lord Krishna. And although neither she nor Usha had previously known his name or ever seen him, so that night she traveled in outer space because she was a mystic yogini, so she had these abilities. And she entered the palace, she went to Dwarika, she entered the palace of Aniruddha, and she found him sleeping in his bedroom. And Chitralekha, by her mystic power, immediately brought Aniruddha in that sleeping condition to the city of Sonitpur, so that Usha might see her desired husband. Usha immediately bloomed in happiness and began to enjoy the company of Aniruddha with great satisfaction. Right. So in due course of time, Usha exhibited some bodily symptoms by which it could be understood that she was having a relationship with a male friend. The symptoms were so prominent that her actions could no longer be concealed from anyone. Usha was always cheerful in the association of Aniruddha, and she did not know the bounds of her satisfaction. The housekeeper and the guards of the palace could guess very easily that she was having relationships with a male friend. And without waiting for further developments, all of them informed their master Banasur. In Vedic culture, unmarried an unmarried girl having an association with a male is the greatest disgrace to the family. And so the caretakers cautiously informed their master that Usha was showing symptoms indicating a disgraceful association. The servants informed their master that they were not at all neglectful. See, because they themselves were fearful of Banasur. So they informed him that they were not at all neglectful in guarding the house, being alert day and night against any young man that might enter. And they were so careful that a male could not even see what was going on there. So they were surprised that she had become contaminated. Since they could not trace the reason for it, they submitted the whole situation before their master. And Banasur was shocked to understand that his daughter, Usha, was no longer a virgin maiden. This weighed heavily on his heart, and without delay, he rushed towards the palace where Usha was living. There he saw that Usha and Aniruddha were sitting together and talking. They looked very beautiful together. Aniruddha, being the son of Pradyumna, was Cupid himself. Let me read that again. Aniruddha, being the son of Pradyumna, who was Cupid himself. Banasur saw his daughter and Aniruddha as a suitable match. Yet, for family prestige, he did not like the combination at all. Banasur could not understand who the boy actually was. He appreciated the fact that Usha had not selected anyone in the three worlds more beautiful. Aniruddha's complexion was brilliant and swarthy. He was dressed in yellow garments and had eyes just like the lotus petals. His arms were very long, and he had nice curling bluish hair. The glaring rays of his glittering earrings and the beautiful smile on his lips were certainly captivating. Still, Banasur was very angry. When Banasur saw him, Aniruddha, engaged in playing with Usha, Aniruddha was very nicely dressed, and Usha had garlanded him with various beautiful flowers. The reddish kumkum powder put on the breasts of women was spotted here and there on the garland, indicating that Usha had embraced him. Banasur was struck with wonder that even in his presence, Aniruddha was peacefully sitting in front of Usha. Aniruddha knew that this would be his. Aniruddha knew, however, that his would-be father-in-law was not at all pleased, and he was gathering many soldiers in the palace to attack him. Thus, not finding any weapon, Aniruddha took hold of a big iron rod and stood up before Banasur with his soldiers. He firmly took a posture indicating that if attacked, he would strike all the soldiers down to the ground with the iron rod. Banasur and his company of soldiers saw that the boy was standing before them just like a superintendent of death, and with his invincible rod. Now, under the order of Banasur, the soldiers from all sides attempted to capture and arrest him. When they dared to come before him, Aniruddha struck them with a rod, breaking their heads, legs, arms, and thighs, and one after another they fell to the ground. He killed them just like a leader of a pack of boars killing barking dogs one after another. In this way, Aniruddha was able to escape the palace. Banasur knew various arts of fighting, and by the grace of Lord Shiva, he knew how to arrest his enemy by the use of Nagapasha, the snake noose. And thus he seized Aniruddha as he came out of the palace. When Usha received the news that her father had arrested Aniruddha, she was overwhelmed with grief and confusion, and tears glided down from her eyes. Being unable to check herself, she began to cry very loudly. So this ends this chapter. And this pastime continues on to the next 2 or 3 chapters. So we will stop here, but just the little gems that we can collect from this chapter. As we look at the mercy of Lord Krishna, who was Usha? In Krishna Leela, Usha is in Vrindavan as one of the Gopi friends of Srimati Radharani, known as Shama. And Shama was deeply devoted to Radha and Krishna. And due to her intense devotion, she was born as Usha. And her love for Krishna, she had this deep love for Krishna, and she wanted to relate with him. And we understand that Aniruddha is an expansion of Krishna. So in this way, Krishna was able to reciprocate with her, showing her his mercy. But from this chapter, let us understand who Banasur was. In the Padma Puran, Uttarakhand, there's a verse that indicates who Banasur was in his previous life. And it goes like this. Meghanado Ravaner Atta Eva Pura Janma Prasuto Banasuro Nama Tasya Karma Vipakena Shiva Bhakti Pravena Cha. And the translation of that is, formerly Meghanath, Ravana's son, took birth as Banasura due to the consequences of his actions and by the influence of his devotion to Lord Shiva. So, it is mentioned that Banasur was actually Meghanath, the son of Ravana in his previous lifetime. Now, in Ram Leela, Meghanath was the eldest son of Ravana, and he was very, very proud and arrogant. And he actually he performed what is called the Atma Virya Yajna, and that gave him invincible power. So much so that he was able to destroy Indra in the heavenly planets, and one of his names became Indrajit. Right. So, it's also mentioned that Meghnath was cursed by Lakshman because of his arrogance and his pride. He was cursed to be born again in a family of demons. But because of his devotion to Lord Shiva gave him the benediction that he will take birth as a powerful demon, but also he will have the association of Krishna's dynasty. We also see in Ram Leela that Meghnath, he was very instrumental in driving out Vibhishan from the palace. Now, Vibhishan was the brother of Ravana, and he was actually a devotee of Lord Ram. And when all the other demon ministers were advising Ravana to continue, continue with the war or to go on with the war, Vibhishan, on the other hand, advised Ravana to return Mother Sita and surrender to Lord Ram. And then Meghnath, he piped up and he said, how can you are actually living off our opulences and you are speaking against our enemy. And in this way, Vibhishan was driven out of the palace of Lord of Ravana, and he eventually surrendered to Lord Ram. So, we also see Meghnath that he used the Brahmastra in his fight against Lakshman. And he injured Lakshman very severely. So there's this pastime of Hanuman then going to the Himalayas to bring the Sanjeevani herb to rescue Lakshman. Right? So what can we learn from Meghnad's lifetime and now him being born again as Banasur? Is that Meghnad had a lot of courage and pride, but a lot of courage, so much so that in the war against Ram and Ravana, he actually impressed Lord Ram with the courage that he displayed on the battlefield, right? But this courage and intelligence is valuable, but not enough when it's used for the wrong purpose. So although Indrajit or Meghnad had this courage and this power, but he was using it to serve Ravana instead of serving the Supreme Lord. So we see that pride and arrogance can cloud one's judgment. It happened to Meghnad, and in his next lifetime as Banasur, he still had that pride and arrogance, and it clouded his judgment where he challenged Lord Shiva. When he approached Lord Shiva wanting to fight, subtly he wanted to defeat Lord Shiva. So this pride and arrogance, it can cloud one's judgment and it can bring one's downfall. So as devotees, we have to be very, very watchful and very careful of our abilities and how we use it in the service of the Lord. And we should ensure that none of that makes us proud, because pride will lead to one's downfall. So, Hare Krishna, we'll stop here. Are there any comments or questions or anything anybody wants to add to the pastime? It continues for the next 2 or 3 chapters, so we will see later on how Krishna, he breaks the pride of Banasur by cutting down his 1,000 arms and restoring him to a normal person that is devoted to Lord Shiva. So if there are no questions or comments, we will stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.